But here's my talk about TrueCrypt, and I was going to have a whole theme around Jennifer Aniston, but I was searching for pictures for her online, and the Jennifer Aniston I had a crush on in the '90s isn't exactly the Jennifer Aniston that we have now. So that was the only picture I found that was like I was kind of comfortable with. So I just left it. I was going to have this big backstory about like how I download pictures of Jennifer Aniston and store them in a TrueCrypt volume, but now it's all gone because I don't care as much. Okay, so I'm Sheldon. I'm a web developer. I like building stuff, whether it's for the web or with wood. I like those two devices, and I'm a AFOL, and I'll just leave it at that. The people who know what that is, so I'll just leave it. This kind of started off as a beginner talk, but then I got this email, and it said that about how I should make it more advanced. And so I added a slide to take care of that. And it's at the end. Okay. Why did I name it Crypto for Everyone? It's because I saw this tweet like a couple of weeks before I was going to give the talk, and he's like, I can't convince my parents to use crypto if it's, if you got to go in and type a bunch of shell commands and stuff. And I don't know who that guy is, but it kind of motivated me to change my slides a little bit to talk about the universalness of how this little bit of software can make you feel like you have a little bit of privacy. So, I mean, it's not going to take care of privacy online, but it will, cover your documents that you store on your computer, financial records, whatever you think is private versus, what was that thing? The private versus
secret.
Secret, yeah, exactly. So I like that too. I mean, it's kind of, whenever you talk about this stuff, you get people who think, what are you trying to hide or whatever. It's just like the whole issues with, the leaks and stuff that's been happening lately. So it's not that you're trying to hide anything. It's just that we have a right to privacy, and we should get to, exercise that. This is just the what is it. It's free open source software. There's some kind of controversy about whether it's actually open source or not, because people get very particular with that word. But the gist is that you create a file that's encrypted, and the file actually you can't tell that the file is a TrueCrypt volume. It just looks like a bunch of noise. So that gives you, you could just say that I don't know what that is. It's just a big pile of crap. I have no idea how that file got on my machine. And it provides plausible deniability, which is big, when the cops are after you. You make files, and that's what I usually do. I usually create files that have certain kinds of, it's like how I organize folders. I make different TrueCrypt files. But you can also encrypt your entire volume, and there's lots of other options too, but I'm mostly going to focus on just the files. It's cross-platform, which is really cool, because you can take a volume and maybe stick it in your Dropbox, and then you can open it up on whatever machines you want. And it's free, so it's pretty cool, and it's really easy to use. Like once you see it, you'll wonder why you haven't used it all along. And actually, it doesn't work on Windows Phone. I was just kidding about that. This is the new slide. Actually, I didn't put it at the end, and the how does it work is really complicated. They have lots of documentation about, like we were just learning about the RSA, encryption algorithms and all these crazy things that go on. But I can kind of give you the gist. And the gist is that you have a password to unencrypt the volume. The password is a hash. So a hash is something that you can take a number or a password or whatever, and it's a one-way algorithm so that you end up matching the end result, like an MD5 hash, if you've ever heard of that one. That one's not as secure as the other hashes, but you get a hash of your password, and actually it combines it with the salt, and a salt is the only thing that's in a volume that's unencrypted. So you open up, TrueCrypt opens up a file, it looks at the salt, you type in your password, it combines the salt with your password to figure out what your keys are, and then it starts reading keys, stores keys in RAM, and then it starts unencrypting the blocks of the volume as you access them.
But
No, go ahead.
what algorithm does it use to perform these?
Oh, actually, it has a whole bunch of algorithms, and it even has cascades of algorithms. So all those things, like I wanted to do a demo of just creating one, and then you can see all the different options. And I can put it on slides, or you can see it in the software. So I just decided I was going to put it in. I was just going to do a little demo of the software. And they make a big deal about the mode of operation. So the mode of operation is like that order of operations I just talked about. And that part is really important because there's been other modes of operations that have been cracked. And so earlier versions of TrueCrypt had used modes of operations that were not secure. And so it's really important that now they're using XDS or whatever. So whenever you set up a volume, you have lots of options, but I almost think that there's no wrong way to do it. What encryption algorithm do you want? You want AES, Serpent, Twofish AES, AES2, there's like a million of them. And it's kind of confusing, like which one should I choose? Which is the best one? And there really is no best one. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. And so as a new user, just choose one. What's really cool is you don't even have to remember what you chose, because that's a part of also the way TrueCrypt works, is that you type in your password, it comes up with the keys, and then it tries to unencrypt blocks of data, and it tries to unencrypt them with all the different hash algorithms until it finds which one it is, and then that's the one it uses from then on. I think this is the only wrong option, and that's that you can make a hidden volume. And the hidden volume is actually really cool because you create a volume that has another volume inside of it, and by doing that, you have two passwords. You unencrypt, you type in one password and you'll get one volume, and you type in another password and you'll get the other volume. And so if you're ever in a situation where you are being forced to give the password, through coercion or whatever, you can give them the lame password, and then, of course, you'd put some documents in there that look like they would be something that you'd want to secure, but they're not actually what you want to secure. And there's no way for the person to know that there's something else in that volume. The hidden volume is completely hidden. And that's actually what's kind of scary about it, is that you can actually override, like as you're writing files to this hidden volume in the I put fake files mode with a fake password. As you're adding files, if you get past a certain point, it'll start writing over your actual files. So you have to be really careful with that. And when you mount the volumes, you have to check all these extra options inside TrueCrypt in order to get it to work. So this is the one that kind of scares me, because my data is important. I mean, the whole point of putting it into, I want to keep it private, but I also don't want to lose it. It's really a big deal to me. I usually keep, copies of birth certificates and how to log into my bank accounts and things like that me and my wife need, but nobody else do. So I don't want to lose that. So I don't like this option. A lot of times you think, why not encrypt the entire disk? I mean, there could be anything on your computer that's private, from your browser history or like you log in, and Chrome in particular just stores your passwords in plain text right inside the save password thing, which you should never do. Like, why not just encrypt the entire disk to make sure that you're safe? And there's two things with it. I mean, the first part is it's slow. It does slow you down. Like, encryption and decryption is not free. There's a performance penalty. And besides the fact that it's slow, if you encrypt the entire disk and someone could actually get past your Windows login or something, and then next thing you know, there's actually a vector to get into your machine. So I'm not a big fan of the entire disk encryption. but it's out there, and there's actually a lot more options besides just TrueCrypt. And actually TrueCrypt mostly works with Windows when it comes to that. Like you have to do something else when you use Ubuntu or Mac. So here's where I was going to try it. I was going to open up TrueCrypt over here. And then stick that into a window. So this is what it looks like when you open TrueCrypt. And I'm on a Windows machine, so I'm just mounting them to drives, but you mount them to folders on a Mac and Linux. So we'll just go ahead and make a volume, and then you guys can see all of the different options that exist. Of course, it comes over here.
Those are existing drives on your machine or available letters?
These are available letters, yeah. So this is it. Create a container, create a non-system partition drive. See, I have to look over here for this one. Encrypt the system partition. We're just going to do the file container because that's my favorite. The other ones I haven't really even messed with because they scare me. This is the two options I was talking about, the hidden volume, and that makes a volume in a volume. You're going to choose 2 different passwords, and you have the potential to lose data. And actually, they talk about all that right there, so I'm not revealing anything magic. So now you just got to select a file. So basically a place to put this thing. So I'm just going to put it on my desktop, and I'm going to say, oh wait, I got a funny one. This is not, so, since you can't tell, since you don't know what kind of file it is, the only way someone would know it's a TrueCrypt file is if you do something like name it TrueCrypt file.
Well, that's not true, actually. Someone developed a program that can seek out and find all the TrueCrypt files on a hard drive.
Magic numbers, I was just about to really up right now.
Really?
Yeah, there's this guy.
Well, there was an older version of TrueCrypt where that was possible.
Still,
Really?
I did on my brother's computer.
So you can recompile it with a different magic number. That's what one guy was talking about at DerbyCon a couple years ago. So he does.
Oh, well, that's bad news.
It's very,
But
Even if they're found, they're nearly impossible to track.
right, I know, but the fact that they're there says you have something to hide, and that means the authorities really want in there.
no anything to hide. It's private, not secret.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that we don't have any. You think that you don't have anything to hide, but it's still private. So, and as soon as someone knows that, they really want in those files. So, which is sort of the problem. Like you're using, like if you use Tor or something, you might just be browsing the web just because you want to be anonymous, and it's just regular. Oh, I'm going to Facebook or whatever. Who knows?
That's why we encourage you to use this stuff even more.
Well, exactly, but the implications are it's like searching for, like that's part of the discussion that everybody needs to have, but it makes you look guilty just by virtue that you want this kind of privacy, and so that's the kind of stigma that we need to get rid of.
Yeah.
That's the benefit of what happened with HTTPS is that initially it was only limited, but now that it's so proliferated, there's so much traffic that's HTTPS. It will be more. It becomes the standard, right? It's
Yeah, the
not
baseline.
the oddity or something, or maybe in question, but it's just like, oh yeah, we all do that. That's what we do. If we can do that with the rest of crypto, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna save this little file, and if you give a TC extension, then on a PC, then you can double click the file and it opens up in TrueCrypt, which is kind of a convenience thing. But that's another indicator that it's a TrueCrypt file, but apparently that doesn't matter anymore anyway. So we'll do that, and then do next. And then, so here's where I get to choose my encryption algorithm, and then here's where I get to choose my hash. And so if you just click next past this, like if you were a regular user, you'd probably be fine because AES is what the government uses, and this, I don't even want to pretend to say what these are. SHA-512 is the only one I ever heard of before this, and I call it SHA. I don't even know what you're supposed to call these things.
Shaw, you're right.
Really? Okay. So what do you call that first one?
RIPE-MD.
RIPE-MD?
Right. Well, that's from RIPE is from. Is it Asia or Europe? Europe. Yeah, it's Europe. Yeah, Europe.
Yeah. So, but even if you just skip past this, you're probably going to be fine. So that's why I say, regular users doing this, it's really easy. The wizard kind of steps you through it. I I I personally always like to go with this one because two fish sounds cool, like a two fish serpent. I just picture that in the water or something. But there's actually other benefits to using something called a cascade, and that's where they're encrypting it with AES, and then they encrypt it with two fish, and then they encrypt it with serpent. So they do it 3 times, so there's 3 times as many keys. Also a performance penalty for choosing that one. And it doesn't make it any more secure?
No, just like you talked about, if you don't know the type of encryption, it tries all of them.
Right.
And same thing with anybody else. If they've got something to use as a password, they try the combination. So you're adding something like a fraction of a second to the amount of time that it takes.
But if they're brute forcing something and trying to cipher through all those keys and they have to work back through 3 times the encryption, it's gonna slow them down. That is more security.
You can actually run a benchmark to see what the difference is. You see there's a benchmark button.
Uh-huh.
If you run that, you can see if you were to choose each of those options, how fast would it be, how megs per second, how many megs per second would be.
So has someone done that so we just know?
They'll tell you how fast it is on your machine. It doesn't tell you how much time it actually
So
do.
you can make a.
Oh, because your machine might have a special chip inside of it, like the new Intel chips have AES built in, like where it can quickly decode and encode AES or whatever. So I guess that's why it matters for your particular machine, right? Okay, so again, as a regular, normal beginner user, you're gonna be fine, like no matter which one you choose. And apparently there's some debate as to which is the best, which is always the case when it comes to technical stuff like this. So I'm gonna get my two fish serpent. I love that guy. And then you got to choose a size, which makes sense. You can actually have files that grow with as you add things to them, but they're less secure. Probably just don't do that. But the other thing is that there's also a performance penalty if you let it just grow. So I'll just make.
I want to make a quick comment on that last slide when we were talking about all the different encryption algorithms. That's a perfect example of a benefit of getting communities like this together and us trying to work together, the people that are knowledgeable, to communicate the vetted protocols, the vetted algorithms to the community. There's different ways you can do that. In your software itself, you could ixnay on the stuff that's already been broken, make sure it's not even listed so you don't have the option for it. Make sure that you're very vocal with your community and letting them know in your updates, that you should update to the next one, we've removed this old algorithm, and just keeping a lot of that communication going. But we need to be encouraging a lot more of that so that doesn't get to be I don't know, there's 30 options, I'll click this, and people don't know what the heck's going on. So that's kind of a good example of that. But,
I had something good to say and add to that, but I mean that's the thing is that as a regular user you wouldn't know which one to choose. It's just, who's gonna a regular user is never gonna spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure it out. And even if they did spend hours and hours and hours like I did, you could end up still not having the answer, right? It takes a long time to figure that stuff out. Oh, and actually now I do remember it. TrueCrypt itself used to use different modes of operation, which I was talking about before. And the newer version, if you open up an older TrueCrypt file, it will warn you and tell you this one uses a bad mode of operation that's insecure, so you should upgrade the volume. And there's actually no way to upgrade. You have to just make a new volume and move all your stuff. But
AES is Rindahl and Fish was an AES finalist from Schneier. Where'd Serpent comes out? Anybody know that?
that's actually in the docs.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is? Never mind.
yeah. And that's how I knew that what you're talking about with the AES thing, because I'm like it just turns out that AES uses some other it could have been Serpent, but they found problems with Serpent or it was too slow. Actually, Serpent's better than the one that AES chose, but it was slower, so there's all these trade-offs when it comes to all these different options.
Maybe it was Blowfish. I don't know.
Yeah.
Schneier had one in the short list for AES.
So obviously here, the longer the password, the better, because if they try to brute force it. But I'm just going to use a little short one because it's a little demo. Yeah, see, it even warns me that I'm, being stupid. So, and here's more, okay, great, for a regular user, how do they know the difference between NTFS and FAT? They don't, how would you know what cluster size you want? It just gets kind of overwhelming. But FAT is probably okay unless you're, storing big files, which everybody here probably knows. Because you probably don't care about file permissions on a encrypted drive. And then that's it. It's just going to let me go through the whole thing again. So now,
Making one, following along as you're doing.
cool.
Just see what I got.
So now on my desktop, I have this is not a TrueCrypt file, and I can double click it, and it chooses an open volume for me, or letter, and I can, I think I'll put it on the Q drive today, and then I'll just mount it. And another thing that's another kind of security problem with TrueCrypt is that it does store the keys in memory. So that means that if you have your volume open and someone really wants in, I always say the feds, because there's always going to like what regular people ever want to look at this stuff. But when they come in, like if they get your computer, they have ways to keep it powered up and move it off premises, and then they can get into your TrueCrypt volume. So you have to always close the volume down when you're done using it. You have to be very conscious of it. And even if you have a laptop and you mount a volume and then it goes into hibernate, when you open it up, it's still mounted. So those are a couple other little issues too. So there I go. I got my little Q drive. Oh.
Now, do you have to mount that? Well, maybe you'll get to it. So you when you boot your machine back up again,
You got to mount it again.
you got to mount it again.
And that, actually there was there's some documentation about how to use TrueCrypt for Dropbox, so that you create a container, you move your Dropbox folder to that container. But a part of it was, having it automatically mount and all these other kinds of crazy things that you have to do in order to have your Dropbox volume encrypted. And then the end result is Dropbox still has your actual files that you didn't really encrypt anything except for locally. So you might as well just create a file and stick it in Dropbox, and Dropbox will sync it for you. So there, I have a little Q drive now, so I can go to my my presentation and then get my not a secret stuff. And I can move it into my volume. And then now it's there, and I can go and get rid of them out of here now, because don't need them anymore. So that's it. And then, I can go back to TrueCrypt and dismount it, and now I have a cool little, like, all my files are secure and nobody can get to them unless they know my little password. So let's try it. So the plausible deniability stuff kind of stuck out to me because, like, as you're reading through this, all I could think of was, by virtue of using this, you could get, it feels like you'll get in trouble just because you want to, secure a couple of things. So it's just insane to me, all of the resistance to it, I guess. And another thing that was important that I read, that I also don't know if it's true now that you guys correct me on everything, is that the government, like, if you have a safe and you put documents into a safe, the government can compel you to open the safe. Whereas there was some case in the Supreme Court where someone had a TrueCrypt volume, and the police tried to get a court order to make them, give them the password, and he could deny it based on the Fifth Amendment. So he'd have to say something, and he doesn't have to incriminate himself by saying stuff thanks to the Constitution. So
That's still not clear.
Yeah,
It's very muddy. But
Yeah.
you could say you forgot your password, there's no way to check that.
right,
And the guy you're.
but that would be lying, maybe.
Of course, rule
The
against
case
that.
you're talking about didn't go to the Supreme Court. There's a case, one recently, they were able to decrypt a couple of his drives.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say how, but they were able to, and that had enough evidence to indict him and send him away from.
How do they decrypt his
They
drives?
didn't say.
Oh, well,
Was it a TrueCrypt drive?
yeah. The one that would
That's
the
interesting, because well, my day consultant, I do digital forensics, and I've not seen a lot of busted TrueCrypt drives in the literature and in the,
They go through all the time. It's like 20 questions. For your TrueCrypt drives, do any of them share a password that you've used in any other password system
Absolutely.
anywhere?
That's right.
yeah.
Okay, so all we do is we subpoena Bank of America, we subpoena Microsoft, we subpoena Google. Poof, we now have your passwords for all those places.
Wait, do they? But how would you get the actual password from all of those different places?
You can subpoena the information.
Okay, so I subpoenaed all of your information.
I know, but you're gonna get a hash of the
That's
password.
exactly right. If they're doing it right, all you're gonna get is a hash of the password.
No, legally they all have to keep the password.
The
Microsoft
plain
has to
text
keep
password? They
Microsoft
have-
has to keep the password, Google has to keep the password, all of these people, because of the relationships that they have with the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA. So, anybody can subpoena your password from any organization that you've ever had a password for larger than a certain size. And a certain size is 50,000 users. So, if you have a site that you've logged into and you've used a password and they have more than 50,000 users, if you do something wrong, they will have your password. You saw that it chooses your hash calculation. That's the main security. So, what you do is, even if you totally smash this computer in little itty bitty bits and they've still got your hard drive, that password is still going to work because they can try each of the different hash mechanisms and then they can run the encryption against it.
Huh? Yeah. See that? I mean that just sounds like conspiracy theory stuff. I don't even know if I believe that one. I mean that they keep the password in plain text that they can give away to people.
That's not even the scary one. The scary one is, okay, so you pick a password, it's 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, blah, blah, blah. You run through the possible number of hash combinations, and because the salt is stored in plain text on the computer, all we have to do is throw 50, 60 computers at it. A week later, bam.
It doesn't really matter if they're doing an offline attack. If they have the encrypted password file, they're doing an offline attack. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
So
But
it-
that's
just
the
how
case of
bad
everything.
are you accused of?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's
Question in the back.
Yeah, we're doing a simple approach to get someone's password if you're dealing with Sheldon's level stuff. The thing that Sheldon did correctly was he made his identity known. Now, if you're dealing with something like that, you don't make your identity known. Why wouldn't SF Group just come back and grab you and then take your family, take you to a black site and be like, yo, we're gonna kill your family and they'll have them right in front of you if you don't give us your password. This is not a false scenario. This is shit that goes down.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, if you have that level stuff to secure, you might want to think about the hidden volume. I mean, because
Level stuff, and once you start dealing with that, rules are off limits.
yeah,
I mean, that's why I said Sheldon was smart in making his identity known, because if you don't, then what's going to happen? You're going to have someone that's unknown release some files, and then what? You can be like, oh, the courts are going to save stuff, but once you start like transferring top secret information to public entities, do you think the U.S. really cares about
You
your
don't,
rights?
you don't even have to go that far. So in 2001, I made a cable modem go faster than it was supposed to. Was one of the first people ever charged with making your cable modem uncapped. And the charges were Homeland Security violations.
Right.
I was classified as a terrorist for making my cable modem go faster. Technically, if they had wanted to, they could have hauled me off and said, nope, you are a terrorist agent, you have no rights.
Or they'll wait.
What?
Still hold that back.
No.
Or they'll wait for you to go travel somewhere, and other countries definitely don't give a shit about you. But they're good allies with the U.S. because the U.S. will give them hundreds of millions of dollars to
this stuff is awesome. So this is what I want to be happening with this party here, and I want more discussion happening during the talks like this. It's really good, but we also do need to get to some of the talks. So I want this. If we can move it over to the social area, and we'll get into the next talk and continue talking about this stuff. This is the type of stuff that needs to come out of an event like this. So, and if you want to go to wrap up.
Yeah, and those are just my, like, that's what I felt like when I was trying to do the advanced stuff. Like, you know, when Homer opens up the advanced marketing, then beginning marketing, and then he looks it up in a dictionary. Because, I mean, you start reading about encryption algorithms and all this crazy stuff and how TrueCrypt does what it does, it gets very complicated really quick. So, and then that's it.